Welcome, everyone. My name is Federico Tozzi. I'm the Executive Director of the Italy America Chamber of Commerce. I'm particularly happy today because we can finally welcome our new Consul General in New York, Fabrizio Di Michele. And as you know, is a tradition for the Chamber to welcome the new representative of the Italian government in New York with an in-person event. Unfortunately, this year we can't do it, but we hope that when the situation improves, we can have the opportunity to meet in person Mr. De Michele and give him our warm welcome in New York. I don't want to take too much of your time. I would like to give the floor to Alberto Milani, our president. He will introduce the Consul General, and then we will proceed with the program.
Thank you, Federico. Alberto. Good morning to everybody. Thank you for being here today. I'm not going to take some time from Minister Di Michele, because I think that that is the person that you want to talk to, that you have some questions, you'd like to know more about him, about his plans for the future. And of course, we had the opportunity to meet him in person. I think that, generally speaking, we are facing an interesting time of restart, rebirth for New York City. And obviously the Italian community will be stronger than ever. And we're happy to have him as the leader of our famous Sistema Italia, in which everybody's trying to do our best. It's best to support each other. It is a time that we really have to support each other, to start with innovation, with a good enthusiasm for the future. On the economical point of view, the market is really positive. We will have probably one of the best economy ever since 1946. So it's just a matter of being organized and go for it. So I just welcome personally Minister Di Michele, and I give you the floor and welcome you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you, President. It's really a pleasure and honor to be with you, though digitally. I very well know how much important the Chamber of Commerce, the Italy America Chamber of Commerce is for our business, and a very meaningful number of members in the tri-state. So this is to me a very important occasion that I hope can be as interactive as possible, not only to introduce myself and share with you, broadly speaking, my vision and the way I look at my role and future responsibilities, but also, again, it's a great occasion to listen to you, to your inputs and expectations. As Alberto said, I'm just arrived in New York in a special moment, I would say. It's a period of transition, but I cannot underestimate the importance of this period, because you can perceive a new energy, sense of hope and dynamism. And in this respect, I consider myself lucky, because I'm fully aware and understand what's behind us. And I'm even doubtful in using this word, behind us. Let's say we are looking and seeing the end, the light at the end of the tunnel, and probably New York is in one of the most privileged positions in this regard all over the world. I'm not saying that the fight against pandemics is won, but there are many signals all around, empirical, I would say, signals that show us that things are going in the right direction. It's not only about data, scientific data, and the impact of vaccination. It's about the way people react to this context and the signal of trust. And I've been witnessing in a few weeks traffic jam improving or worsening, depending on the point of view. I hear about a very significant increase of marketing investments by companies and enterprises here in the tri-state, which is another important signal of optimism. We can see all around things reopening, though gradually, museums, public events, and other activities. As far as New York is concerned, restaurants are crowded. I mean, coming from Italy, from Europe, where we are a few months behind in this trajectory, this is giving me lots of energy and hope. So the big question is, how can we translate this push, this energy into something operational? How can we kind of ride this tiger? And when I say we, I'm talking about the Sistema Italia, but I'm talking first and foremost about Italian business, so that we can positionate ourselves and be among the first to take advantage of this rebirth, as Alberto said before. This is, of course, about a concept that you have heard many, many times in the past, how to improve synergies, strengthen our organization, our capacity to coordinate and improve the projection of Italian interests. But in this juncture, I would say we are facing a different situation, because we are getting out of a kind of a war. Pandemics, the fight against pandemics can be compared to a world war. It's not one, as I said before, but this is, we are confronted with new kind of challenges. And I would like to define, let's say, a broader context, and then in this context try to see how what we can do from New York, and what's the observation point of New York. When I refer to the broader context, I cannot but refer to the fact that our country is facing today probably an historical challenge and opportunity. We've been through dire straits in the past, notably on the financial side. The impact, socioeconomic impact of COVID has been really bad, but we have today in our hands, and when I say we, I'm referring to public institutions as well as private businessmen and every single Italian actor. We have in our hands the instruments for relaunching our country. You very well know about the new plan for the resilience, what we call a Piano Nazionale di Ripresa e Resilienza, which is going to be submitted to the European Union in order to benefit of the recovery fund. This might look like quite remote from here, but this is part, in my view, of a broader challenge in which all of us, from their different responsibilities and roles, have to play a role. So that's why when I don't think to exaggerate when I say that I'm arriving here in a historical phase for our country. And New York is a privileged point of observation. It's usually a forerunner. So it's a place where basically we will measure our capacities to cope with these challenges. And in a way, our capacity to do better than others facing these challenges. there is another aspect I want to refer to. It belongs again to the macro context, if you want, but it's important to me as a diplomat to point to that. We are getting through a new period also in terms of relations between the US and Europe. This is something we should not underestimate. I don't have to explain why and what. It's clear that there is a rapprochement underway with the new American administration. And in this context, again, we can sense a peculiar role that Italy can play. And the current political situation suggested that we have a great potential for bilateral relations. And this is something that, of course, cannot but interest all of you as businessmen. So we have this macro context with the huge challenges for our country, and micro, if I can say so, context from New York, which is the center of the world. And once again, it's where things are happening before. So this is the way I look at my arrival here and the job I'm going to do. That's why I feel particular responsibilities. But I would like to stress that we should feel all responsible, because we are all called, as I said before, to play a role in this new phase. And there are many things, of course, that the pandemic has left forever. The pandemic has accelerated many processes, notably the digitalization process. And this implies a huge challenge for us, the public administration, but also for companies and single enterprises. The same applies for organizational models, the way we work. I hear that smart working will become the rule. I'm not very sure about it, but it's clear that, particularly for the big companies, that the change of model was already underway, and this was only accelerated by COVID-19. So, in a way, I'm here also to collect your inputs on how we collectively can ride this horse and improve as a system the projection of our country and of our interests. Maybe New York is one of the easiest place to do that, because New York is partly Italian. I mean, there are no other places outside Italy where you can sense the presence of the Italian brand and the appreciation of the Italian features, being our creativity, our talent, or simply our gusto di vivere, how we want to call it. This is something that probably no other place outside Italy, like in New York, is perceived and appreciated. But we have to go beyond that. And so what I wonder, and I ask you, and then I finish because I really would prefer to listen to you, is how we, if and how we can improve our coordination and become a maybe more solid and in a way more competitive with other systems, with other national systems, which probably do not, or surely do not have our capacities, do not have our brand, but sometimes they have other resources, financial or organizational. So that's a challenge that I feel, but I think I don't want to kind of reinvent the wheel here. A lot of work has been done. There are lots of Italian institutions here working hard together, notably Italian Trade Agency, Istituto di Cultura, and the very same Chamber of Commerce. But again, it's necessary for me to ask myself if and how we can fare better in terms of Italian system, putting together the different elements, factors, and promoting better our business. That's, of course, also part of my job, though not really in commercial terms, but more in terms of, again, giving more value to the brand Italia. So I'm now really looking at you and asking how and if we can do better. Because I heard individually some of you saying that we could do better. And I'm ready to seize this challenge and do my part with my team and with the resources we have. But this is, again, a challenge and a task for all of us. I'd rather stop here because I'm being very long, actually.
Thank you very much. I think that the key point is that, as you explained a few times, we facing two historical moments. The first one is a time of rebirth, time of restart, and knowing that whatever was done until yesterday, it may not come back. And if it will come back, it will come back in a different shape. So it's our ability and our creativity as Italians will help probably to find a way to readapt, knowing that obviously the quality that is needed in this moment, along with resilience, is the ability of reinventing ourselves. And on that, I think that the Italians prove that over and over again. On the technical point of view, as you underline, and we discussed it also briefly when I came to your office, we are facing an amount of financing, which is what it is, available now to new initiatives. And of course, most of them are to promote Italy abroad and to promote Italian products in different markets, including the United States. So I think that I feel the same. I probably told you, I feel the sense of responsibility in this moment of spending the resources that are available to us in the best way possible, for a couple of reasons. One, because obviously we leave debts that sooner or later needs to be paid to our children, and not to somebody else's children, to our children specifically. And second, because this is a great opportunity that will never come back with the same kind of flexibility, with the same kind of alignment of planets, if you want, that is happening at this stage. So when it comes to few questions that you have from the audience, I leave it to Federico, which has the control of the panel on the right side. But there are many topics that have been very important for the Italian communities, not only the business community, but the Italian community at large. One obviously is the limitation of traveling to the United States and from the United States, which I think I'm feeling that we're getting some improvement. I've been in Italy last week, and fortunately not before the 26th of April, which basically was the day that somehow we reopened in Milan. And I have to say that as you underlined before, we still behind. We're still behind also, fortunately, in the sense of energy and creativity and spirits, I should say, to restart. But he's getting there. And so the question that most of the questions are related to the ability for us to travel. At the moment, you're allowed to travel if you have an American passport or you have a business reason to go there, and also you have, of course, an Italian passport as well. So everybody is asking regarding summer plans. I know from a personal point of view, I have a few friends with hotels in Capri, and they're saying that the reservation from the American are there. Thank God. Now the question mark is what an American will expect going there this summer, and then hopefully there is no restriction. Otherwise, you know, the interest of going there on vacation is probably different. So I leave it to Federico to expand other questions, but then we maybe we make a couple of final comments at the end.
Okay, so as Fabrizio, as you know, we have a different questions from our audience. The first one, I'm just going to the feed here. The first one is it relates to when you think Italy will be open for American tourists and American travelers. As you know, some of our members are in the travel business. They are tour operators, they own travel agencies, and Italy has been one of the main destination for their client, and they would like to know, you know, when do you think, or if you have any, you know, news on possible, you know, general reopening of the country. So that's the first question that we got from our audience.
Look, I don't think I'm telling any secret that this is something being discussed right now within our government, and there is a clear objective to reopen, providing the, of course, the right conditions for safety as soon as possible to tourists, notably to American tourists. I guess one of the key there, again, would be or might be vaccination, which might or should simplify movements. But it's a complex matter because it doesn't concern only Italy, as you know. And there is also a second dimension, which is as important for us as this one, which is the other way around, travel from Italy to US. So I sense we might get there before, and for obvious reasons, reopening for Americans, even before the vice versa. But it's still let's say, under reflections of the modalities and the conditions for that. Needless to say that there is a huge expectation also from our business in Italy for this reopening, and they paid a very, very high cost during the long lockdown, and it's a fact that there are reservations taking place. So there is a bet on the future, and I cannot make any prediction, but common sense tells me that we are talking about a few months to see some developments. But again, this is something that I guess will have to be further elaborated within the Italian government, coordinated with other, possibly with other European countries or within the EU and with the US itself. So I think we are in the right direction. I cannot be very concrete because honestly, I would just speculate. But what I sense from Rome is that they are working on that, and this could come even sooner than we think.
We have a few questions, and I'm going to group them together regarding the consular services. As you know, many of our members, they travel frequently to Italy. Some of them are Americans. They go to Italy for business. Some of them live in the United States, but they still need visa to access Italy. And some of them are Italian Americans that are, applying to get an Italian citizenship. And even Italians in New York that are trying to renew their passport. They even before the pandemic, we've seen like a building up of delays on the consular service side. So as you can imagine, Ministry Di Michele, so we have a lot of question on that. So please give us an update on the status of the consular services. For example, for the Italian citizenship, apparently our friends here on the chat make me notice that there are no appointments available. So it's something that has been, stopped momentarily. So if you can give us an update on that, it would be really, really helpful for our constituency and for our, business community. Thank you.
Sure. Look, I have to be quite frank with you. We are coming out, as all of you, from a very extraordinary situation where the Consulate General, under the lead of my predecessor, has made huge efforts to stay open and provide services throughout this period. I guess with the exception of 3 weeks, the Consulate General has always remained open, initially for a very limited time a week. Now we have, of course, extended this time. We are still under some restrictions of our public administration, so that we are forced to work in 2 different teams, which means basically at half of our capacity. And this inevitably has an impact on our daily services. I cannot either hide the fact that the past year we have focused on emergencies and let's say devoted our resources to those emergencies, which implied, of course, making painful choices. And it's true that the citizenship application has been suspended, and we are right now catching up with the backlog, and we are aiming at going back to normalcy as soon as possible. To be, again, very honest with you, we are facing by now a situation which is also, but not only, the consequence of COVID, of understaffing. We are fortunately reopening our selection for local employees, which have been suspended, of course, due to COVID. And I'm hopeful that we'll be able to bring more people from the ministry, MFA, more administrative employees in the coming month. But we have faced a kind of perfect storm here. Please don't forget that our employees, like all of you, have been through this period without being able to travel very often, without being able to take holidays, or see their own families. So I arrive in a moment where things are reopening, but I also people who have the need and the right to go back to Italy. So we are making efforts with the available resources, first to increase the number of appointments for passports. And I think that this is doable and we are improving. The objective is, again, to return to normalcy as far as the citizenship application are concerned. But first, we have to address the backlog of previous applications which have not been dealt with. And third, it's clear that the moment I will be able to have all resources available every single day at the office, our output will improve significantly, because though we can, of course, cannot underestimate the improvement of our capabilities to work from home and improve our digital infrastructure, but some consular services still require very much a physical presence and physical acts. And this is a huge constraint. And believe me, I'm not like kind of looking for pretexts, but I've been talking a lot to other colleagues from other consulate general of European countries comparable to us. And I have to say that these problems are quite universal. So my commitment is, of course, to be able to gradually catch up with the backlog and gradually reopen, of course, in the framework of the instructions that we will receive and in coordination with our embassy in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
We can't hear.
Federico?
I'm sorry. We have a question regarding the reservation system of the consulate. Some people find it very difficult to use and kind of cumbersome and outdated. Is there any plan to streamline at least the reservation process for people interested in getting the consular services?
Look, I thank you for this question, Federico, because we are going through these very days a transition towards a new reservation system, which applies to the whole world. It's not something specific to New York. We will probably have a transition phase with two systems, because we have to preserve the appointments made with the previous one. The new one will have should have, of course, should be more user-friendly, but among its advantages, there should be the possibility of using a kind of waiting list, so that when you fix an appointment, today what happens is that you are put in a queue based on a capacity to process X passports or X documents per day. What happens sometimes is that we are daily confronted with urgencies, and we have used and make accessible emails and a telephone number, a mobile phone, exclusively for passports and urgent requests of passport. Now, sometimes everything is urgent, but we have to assess what is really urgent and based, of course, on documents. So we have made efforts already to improve our capacity, being aware of the constraints of the reservation system. Now, with this waiting list, it will be possible for those who are queued to be put forward in case of canceling of other appointments, which happens. So the idea is to get back to a situation where the telephone call or the email is really an exception, rather than becoming a rule, as a kind of happened in the past weeks. This will depend very much on us, but from now to August, I've been told that the new system will become the only one, and definitely should be more user-friendly. Of course, the feedback we will get from our citizens will be very important to improve it further if need be.
Thank you. Thank you. We have a different type of questions now. We have a question for our friend Laura Laposta, journalist from Sole 24 Ore. And as you know, they've been talking about a pact for export that our Minister Luigi Di Maio launched. And this pact also assigns a sizable funding for Italian companies interested in going to foreign markets. So the question is, and one of the major players in this is the Italian Trade Office, the Italian Trade Agency. So the question is the consulate playing any role in coordinating these activities locally in New York? If so, in which way? We also have a question from one of our members that is trying to develop a new coffee table with Italian companies, and the question was: is there any funding available for companies that are doing that? So, and in which way they can apply for those fundings?
As for the first question, honestly, I asked myself the same question even before coming here, because we have many institutions here, but it's also true that, and it's important to clarify that the guidance of the activities of trade promotion is made in Washington by our embassy and the trade office, the commercial office. But we are, I feel very much to be responsible for this, representing Italy here. So although we cannot be expected to follow single businessmen, because we don't have that competence or resources, we are supposed to be accountable vis-a-vis all of you for questions, for proposals, for ideas, for criticism. And my job then should be look around me, talk to the other actors and institutions, ask for guidance if need be from Washington or from Rome, from our competent department, and come back to you in a sensible way. So the answer is yes, we have a role to play, and it's more, if you want, a role you have to imagine us as being the tip of the system. We probably have or have the ambition to have a broader vision, but we cannot be able to go after a single business proposal or activities. Here we have the trade agency under Antonino Laspina, which, as you know, after the last year reform, is under the coordination, the guidance of the Minister of the MFA. That introduced a huge change that we are still basically working on. And in my opinion, has improved our capacity to use better our resources. And then I come now to the issue of resources, because with the Pact for Export, indeed, our ministry, including in the context of the new competencies, has launched a new strategy of internationalization of our companies, which is a focus on small and medium enterprises, but not only on that. So I could talk at length about the different resources available through ICE, CMEST, the chamber system, and from the MFA itself. There are many projects, for instance, for the digitalization, supporting digitalization of companies. I don't want to, elaborate on this, but we are ready to talk to you individually and also to put you in touch with those who really know and do this on a daily basis. That's again part of my competence, the way I see it. Maybe I don't know exactly an answer, but I'm supposed to know who's the guy in the Italian system who knows the answer and can follow up on that.
Another question we have is there any plan to restore confidence to Italy as a travel destination?
As a travel destination?
Yes.
I would say there is a plan, a grand plan of strategic communication, which is about to start, and for which the MFA has devoted a meaningful amount of money, resorting also to professional experts. And this will be a strategic communication campaign. And the US is among the 26 countries targeted. So it's beyond travel. It's about the brand, the image of Italy in all its different articulation. Clearly this should and will facilitate also or promote that aspect of traveling and tourism. On this, there will be initiatives very soon, which I don't want to anticipate because, again, particularly in this case, our embassy in Washington is on the lead. But I can really I want to underline that there is there was a clear awareness in Rome, and by the way, I was in Rome at that time, of the need to relaunch, refurbish the image of our country, which we can't deny has been harmed also by COVID. But as I said before, this is part of a broader challenge of a post-pandemic, renaissance and development.
Thank you for that answer. Unfortunately, Federico's connection dropped out, so I'll be reading some of the questions moving forward. We have a question on your view on the outlook to remove permanently the tariffs on European goods. If you have any input on that, if you could answer that question.
The question got me interrupted. Could you please repeat it?
Of course. What is your view on the outlook to remove permanently the tariffs on European goods?
Well, I can only have a positive opinion. I mean, as I said before, we are going through a different period now, and we can be more hopeful that between the US and Europe, the open issues, which are they're on the table, will be tackled in a cooperative way. So I can only say, not really as an Italian Consul General, but firstly as an Italian diplomat, a civil servant, that we feel kind of reassured by what we see happening now. Then we'll see in concrete what will be the end game. But for sure, the approach has gone back to what used to be and should be between allies, say, based on dialogue and cooperation. Perfect. Which means everybody is preserving its own interest by definition, but among allies, then you try to also to understand the others' interests.
Thank you so much. We also have another question from Davide Mamone. Sorry, I'm just reading it to paraphrase it as best as possible for you. You mentioned before that you do not expect that smart working will be the only solution for offices and businesses in the post-pandemic world. In the US, HR departments and CEOs are discussing a so-called third wave option, an integrated hybrid system where workers can divide themselves between the physical offices and working from home. How would you suggest Italian businesses and investors coming to the US should address this topic?
Look, I'm not an expert, but I can only share some common sense with you. I mean, and also our experience as smart working as a public administration. We have made huge efforts and improvements that we could not even imagine without COVID. We've been forced to do it. But let's face it, it's impossible, in my opinion, to replace the value of personal, informal contacts and dialogue and discussions. And this applies to public administration as to business. I can't imagine a single individual being, by the way, kind of alienated in their own places, working on a computer or on a smartphone. Maybe the big companies will be able to afford some mixed, let's say, system, but particularly for small and medium enterprises, which are let's say, the core of our economic system, I can hardly see how the smart working might become the rule of the prevailing system. We have learned, of course, that many things can be done online. Maybe many trips might be in future avoided. And many meetings might still be held online. But I have the feeling that we'll get back gradually also to more traditional way of working. The difference will probably be one of the criteria might be indeed the dimension, the size, and the sector in which single companies operate. In terms of suggestion for Italian companies here, I think this is a place where you can learn a lot, but again with our own specificities. So we cannot not necessarily, follow on examples provided by the big companies. And then I also wonder if these companies are aiming at, let's say, having a hybrid system, which it's what will happen, but with a specific focus on keeping the smart working, I wonder why, so many high-tech companies have been buying lots of real estate in New York and in the past months. What they're going to do with that space, I'm wondering. Of course, that was probably a good bargain, but still a huge investment. So I'm not an expert, but let me conclude. I'm not either a fan and a huge supporter of smart working.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We have two more technical questions and then one more of which department is the correct department to speak about a project that someone has in mind, to the point you made earlier. So I'll start with the second part. One of our members has started a business called Street Farms and is very interested in promoting urban sustainability here in the United States and also in Italy with regards to modular urban vertical farming. What department would you recommend they contact to answer this question?
What contacts, sorry?
Yes, what department they should contact.
On our side, you mean?
Yes, correct.
Well, for sure, first of all, the Embassy New York and the commercial office. And for specific initiatives, also the trade agency here in New York. Then in terms of which support of eventually resources they might benefit from, it's our General Department for Sistema Paese, we call it. Sorry, I cannot translate this. It's in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this is the department basically leading all the commercial and investment activities from the MFA. What I can suggest is get to us concretely also via email, and we can probably address you to the right counterparts.
Perfect. Two more questions that I'm going to aggregate in one, since we are sort of nearing the end of this town hall. The first one is related to IRE. There seems to be some problems when you have to change your state of residence, and this cancels your current position and forces you to re-enroll. With the digitalization that you were referring to earlier of your systems, will this help in avoiding these issues then with the Italian fiscal system? Or is there any solution you can provide in the meantime for this member asking to avoid this awkward position since they've changed residency?
Okay, I will have to look into this more specifically. I don't want to answer. I guess digitalization should help, but I need to look into the specific question that has been raised to be able to be more clear about it.
Of course. And then one other question, what role has the consulate and Italian government made to assist in this chaotic time to help Italian companies that have significant trade and businesses with the US?
Well, that's a generic question that I've tried to answer already in my previous intervention. I'm sorry for the noise. Again, this is very much part of our competence, and there are many ways and instruments we can do it. I can only say that it's important to be precise on what are we talking about, and we can be precise on what we can do and what we can provide as support or services. But such a broad question cannot but elicit a broad answer from my side. I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I mean, I'm looking at all these questions and you've more or less answered them already in broad terms. The only one to see if you have, I'm trying to see if there's anyone's, no, you've actually answered most of the questions, so I don't want you to repeat yourself. So I don't know if Alberto, you have any closing remarks or observations you would like to make? Sorry, Alberto.
Only thanking Fabrizio, once again welcoming him to New York. I'm sure that we will have several opportunities for him to meet our communities. I believe that, generally speaking, technology will play a role for all of us. And when it comes to digital, there's also an aspect that most of the time is not fully understood. The working on algorithms is forcing all of us to have a clarity in our vision and a clarity on our action plan, because there's a huge difference of action planning when it goes to a digital outcome and outgoing effort rather than without it. So I guess that most of our improvement, generally speaking, whether or not you could travel, you could move merchandise, you could improve the supply chain, you can do many things. But the one advantage of what we had during the last 12 months is that working with technology helped us to, I should say, surgically go into how to react to several issues and maybe facilitate, if you want, the possibility of understanding that maybe the system wasn't working to begin with. So when it comes to physical events or hybrid events or digital events, doesn't really matter I would say that most likely we will have very soon physical events. Nevertheless, I'm pretty sure in the same way that it won't exist anymore a physical event that is not complemented by the digital events as well. So we live in a different kind of reality, and I guess that the consulate, like any other organization, including the Italian American Chamber of Commerce, needs to work on how to become relevant and how to support the community when it comes to Made in Italy and any kind of initiative related to that. Once again, first and foremost, has to be relevant, but second is how to make relevant something that is intangible. Made in Italy and the Italian beauty and the Italian lifestyle is something that is very difficult to transfer properly digitally, especially. So I guess that this is will be the challenge for all of us. And I'm sure that talking once already to our consul and listening to him today, we'll find a way to get more on several issues all together and try to suggest recommendation. Some of them could be available for all of us. Some of them maybe won't work, but I'm sure that we will be more focused on what the priority are for all of us, not because we have a new council, but because life in general now is dictating to be more precise on the priorities that all of us have. And so welcome again to Fabrizio. And if we have any other question that will not answer yet, we will address it to him, and we'll get back to whoever was asking the specific question. All right. Thank you again, Fabrizio.
Alberto, let me thank you and all the participants. Really, I appreciated this occasion very much. Needless to say, I would have preferred to meet you all in person, but this will happen, as you say. We are all craving for events, physical events, and it is coming back. Maybe we will be all of us all together, but gradually we'll get there. And please count on us with our resources, but our really goodwill to do our best, of course, in terms of consular services, but also in terms of our, improving what you mentioned is an immaterial added value, which is the Italian brand. Sometimes we promoted simply by acting and working in our place, because we express the Italian way of doing simply by being Italians. And this is something that New York can understand much better than many other places all over the world.
Very good. Grazie a tutti. Allora, a presto.
Thank you.
A presto.
Ciao.
Ciao.